So when you moved abroad, where did you go first, Sarah?
My first international experience was in France, where I experienced a complete culture shock. In Sweden, we are discreet in our movements and we don't use large gestures when we talk. Additionally, it is not natural to raise your voice during a discussion, even though you are upset or frustrated. Until I arrived to France, I had never experienced a really heated discussion. This was, however, something that I would get used to on a daily basis during my time in France. It was not rare for the other employees to scream to each other, using wide gestures and loudly discuss things that had happened to them. In the beginning, I remember that I felt malplacé, and I didn't feel natural to express my feelings to the same extent as my colleagues did. Thanks to Trompenaar's neutral versus emotional dimensions on culture, I can understand today that I experience these feelings because I come from a neutral country where it is considered standards to efficiently manage your emotions. I believe that working in France, which is more an emotional nature, made me to the person that I am today. After a while, I started feeling at ease confronting my colleagues and stand my ground in a conflict, but still remain calm and reasonable. I encountered conflicts on a daily basis, which made me realize that an important tool for a manager is the ability to handle conflicts without making it to a personal matter. Before I worked in France, I took all conflicts personal and could feel upset for days, something that I had to adjust when I was working in France. French people taught me how to let go of things, which is crucial, especially for hospitality operations, as you encounter so many challenges on a daily basis. So Jana, what was the first country you lived in after moving abroad?
After spending almost 20 years in my home country, I decided to obtain a hospitality degree in Canada. Once I moved to the English-speaking part, I experienced a cultural shock, as locals had a completely opposite culture from my own. I was astonished that North American society consists of individuals who are self-directed and act in their own interest, which words called autonomy. It happened often that during exams, students would point on a peer who cheats for the sake of maintaining equal rights for everyone, while in Kazakhstan, this act of fairness could be perceived as betrayal. It could mean a fracture of relationships between those classmates. At the same time, I was pleasantly surprised by the friendly relationships that were present between students and teachers. In Canada, where egalitarianism is true, students call their professors by first names, which in the Central Asia can be understood as disrespect. In reality then, I noticed that cordial relations between students and lecturers resulted in better learning and higher grades. Likewise, Canadian organizations encourage open relationships across different levels of employment. What I found beneficial is that in this kind of structure, employees feel more confident and valued. So after living in France, did you experience any other culture very unlike yours?
After my journey to France, I went on to perform an internship in Morocco. I was exposed to a high-context culture and experienced several differences that appeared unusual to me. Hall identified that association within a high-context culture is symbolized by the importance of establishing interpersonal relationships at work and that the outcome of daily tasks heavily depend on the ability to work as a team and respect that authority is centralized. Sweden, on the other hand, is identified as a low-context culture with strict procedures and a deep centralized power. The collision of these two very different cultures created a large amount of confusion to me when I started integrating the Arabic workforce. One of my weaknesses was that I couldn't understand why my colleagues valued their personal relationships so high, because for me it seemed like they were one big family. I sometimes felt overwhelmed by how important it was to take care of each other instead of just following the few orders we received and carry out the work that needed to be done. This experience taught me how important it is to build solid relationships and to get everybody on your side in order to ensure results at the end of the day. I had to put aside my learned behavior of acting independently, as this was perceived as an unusual behavior by my Arabic colleagues, and take on board their way of getting on with the work. Today I believe that one of my most important strengths is my ability to adapt and adjust to new cultures.
Created using Powtoon.